Aloha, friends and neighbors. Rollin Frost here. Program 991. In La Catch, the Mayan greeting. I am another you. See the sign? Behind our masks, we are you. I'm doing this on November 5th, Guy Fawkes Day. And if you haven't been introduced to this, there's a worldwide thing going on. And it's all, you know, it's a rather extraordinary event of Aquarian nature, what's happening. Just, well, check this out.
To hit pretty much every governmental building in the city.
We are anonymous! We don't forgive!
They will start off at the White House, then the plan is to walk to the Department of Justice, the FBI, and many other governmental bodies here. The people protesting here, they're pretty much protesting against all the wrongs in the world. Wage inequality, GMO foods, mass surveillance, and the idea of this is a global gathering. It's being held in at least 24 cities in the United States and also a lot of places across the world. We're expecting
There's a lot of people that would like to stick us in the age of Pisces and burn up the oil. But there's an awful lot of people like this anonymous movement who are here to right the wrongs, to use common sense and science and the mind. And we need to get behind these groups like this. Wonderful stuff. Anonymous. Hooray! So this is show number 991. We're going to cover the last bit of November, first bit of December 2015 for you when we get ahead. A word on that anonymous. It comes from V for Vendetta movie, and Guy Fawkes was a Guy Fawkes who wanted to go blow up some banks, and he failed actually. He doesn't in the movie, but anyway, the spirit of Anonymous is very simple in their credo. We are anonymous. And let's see, how's it go? We do not forget, and we do not forgive. Expect us. To me, this is the first rising of a real militant arm of environmentalists, because it's going to happen sooner or later. These folks that are holding on to their old lifestyles and burning up all the oil and taking all the money, and you know, it kind of gets out of hand and you start to get angry. Well, join Anonymous. So V for Vendetta. Check out the movie. Now, let's go ahead and, let's see, one note, that full moon you just had on the 25th was a biggie for Hawaii. And also for the United States of America's government, because full moon hit the rising sign there, and I expect there's going to be some lunacy, some over-exaggerated emotion in the U.S., and things are going to happen. And we're about to have problems with other people. Some of the people that are close to us. Well, let's check out the chart. Let's see what it's going to be like for you for the next 10 days. Mars is moving up to oppose Uranus. He'll get sharp and angry. Venus is opposing Uranus as you stand, and Pluto's still squaring it. But most of all, you know, it's only been about 9-10 days back from where you're at, if you're on the Thursday show, when Neptune stationed. Now when Neptune stations, well, if it's hitting your chart bad, you spill things. Now, so far, I'm back here on the 6th of November because November 5th is Guy Fawkes Day. And you didn't see any of that in the news. Marches all over the world. But I'm concerned more about Neptune and the water problems. And so far, all I've seen has happened in Hawaii on the 6th, which is very early in the difficult period, was a whale washed up on shore. They couldn't save it and had to put it away. But more than anything on the Big Island, because a lot of this stuff that I've been following is focused on the Big Island, we've got dengue fever. And it's getting worse. And that's certainly a Neptune thing. The health department is less than forthcoming about where the cases are and about real information on it. But that's classical for Neptune stuff. Anyway, let's take a look at this day by day. We're going to follow the moon as it moves around this pattern, and as it makes angles to the other planets, we have the mood of the times. Now, it's not your chart. Remember that. This is like the generic chart. You could have kind of the opposite effect. Anyway, if you're in a Thursday show, the moon's in Gemini. Not too bad, kind of social. And kind of freedom loving also. The Thursday show. You probably got a nice sextile to Uranus. Continues through Friday morning, the feeling of brotherhood and the union. And then the moon goes into Cancer here before lunch. And you start to feel more inspired, because here is a good Neptune thing, and Neptune just stopped 10 days ago. So when the moon trines Neptune, you could have some great music, some art, some religious revelation, some understanding of things unseen Friday night. This is late, 9-10 o'clock, Friday night, the 27th of November. Early Saturday morning, here we're talking 4 o'clock in the morning, though, there's a square to Mars. And here we're overprotective, angry, impatient, and we're going into a very tough Saturday. I mean, look at that. Here we've got the angriness starts early in the morning. Then there's a panic call here in the morning and the noontime, and with the opposition to Pluto. Then there's the moon squares Uranus. We feel alone and jittery, and the electronics are breaking down. And boy, that's one's catching me. Everything electrical is breaking in my house. Anyway, Saturday is a crazy day. There's a little brief respite from all of the tension and the angriness and the emergency, but it's brief. You know, that's probably around 9-10 o'clock Saturday night with a sextile to Jupiter. It's an option. But even if you did get some information that relieves some of your tension, you know, here's a square to Venus, and you're not going to get any rest Saturday night, so something's keeping you up. Sunday, you'll still be feeling it through the first 2/3 of the day while the moon's in Cancer, and then before dinner, it shifts into Leo. A fixed fire sign, that's Leo. I keep thinking about Anonymous again. One fellow had a sign up that said, "Behind the mask, we are you." Reminds me of the Mayan greeting, "I am another you." Anyway, if you go after Anonymous on the internet, they do a lot of interesting things. Sometimes they pick out real evil people, and other times, you know, they just went after the KKK. And that was, you know, kind of a neat thing. Anyway, I recommend it to you. If you're angry about what's going on in the world, check out Anonymous. And here's Sunday afternoon after 2 o'clock. It's about the middle of the day. The moon shifts into Leo. All the vibes change. And look at all the sextiles and trines here. All the blue stuff represents sextiles and trines. Ease. You get an easy plan starts in the morning with the moon trine Saturn. And then here's the Sun and Mars. You can execute, get out and get physical. It just happens very easily, you know? Yeah. And here's Mercury. The kids are all happy. Everybody's communicating. And finally here Monday night, we have a nice trine to Uranus. And we all feel the brotherhood. What happened to the unions? Anyway, you know, I see the bad guys are trying to demonize Anonymous. They're trying to demonize trade unions. They're trying to demonize Scientology. They're trying to demonize anytime people get together and express themselves freely. You get difficulties. Anyway, freedom. Yeah, common sense. Monday night, 9-10 o'clock. Moon trines Uranus. Delightful. On the 1st of December, the moon's still in Leo. You should feel the brotherhood kind of all day. The individuality, common sense falls in line. And here Tuesday night, here's a nice sextile to Venus. There's a reward. There's some lovingness around here, some sweets. Hope you enjoy some of it. On Wednesday, it's a very different situation. The moon goes into Virgo, a mutable earth sign, and that's the position where it opposes Neptune. Neptune, and the square to Saturn. I noticed in my astrocartography that the period I just went through with Neptune was opposing, Saturn was on the bottom in the home, and it immediately got cold at night. And I said, oh, it's going to be cold and dry on the home front, which kind of precludes a rain disaster for a little while. Not so on the November 25th lunation. Very different. So I know that you're in a situation now where you're going to have some water in places you don't want it. And maybe some oil, and maybe some chemicals. And maybe, you know, the overzealous spraying for dengue fever mosquitoes. The spraying may be more injurious than the dengue fever mosquitoes. They don't go very far, you know. The Aedes mosquito just goes, you know, a few tens of yards from where it was born. The Anopheles is the larger striped mosquito, and it can travel miles, but the Aedes is, I think, the bad guy here. So it's very localized, and I think you should be treated like that. But here you are, having an emergency. It's the 2nd of December, and you're still wondering about, is the dam going to flood? Is it going to overspill the you know, what's going on? It's confusing, and it's difficult. And if you smell bad smells and chemicals, go follow up on them. See what you can do to stop them. It's very frustrating. Here's the square to the sun Wednesday after dinner, and we're not getting anything done, and we've lost ambition, and we feel confused and feel kind of stuck. Yeah. Thursday morning, 2-3 o'clock in the morning, there's a moon trines Pluto, and we might discover some good stuff. I don't know. There's a square to Mercury. We're not able to talk about it Thursday morning at breakfast. But Thursday afternoon and evening, the moon goes by Jupiter here, and some truth and wisdom may come out, and flashes of insight, bolts of lightning from Jove, from Shock, the rain god. You know, Shazam! Oh, now I see it clear. That's Jupiter. So the moon going by Jupiter sometimes produces rain too, but by and large, you should have some insights Thursday night. Friday morning, while the moon's still in Virgo, it goes by the North Node, and that's around breakfast time or so, before breakfast, and everybody feels nurtured, and we feel like nurturing. It's a good time to take care of folks, because the moon shifts into Libra here, cardinal air sign, and you're back in emergency zone again. Friday night, there's a nice sextile to Saturn. That's around midnight, 1 a.m. in the morning. So he kind of got organized. But don't let your guard down, because here's your nasty Saturday again. And this Saturday on December 5th, you know, the moon's in the Mars zone. So there's a lot of activity and a lot of overprotectiveness. And it gets kind of out of hand and violent here Saturday afternoon. And here's a square to Pluto. The police aren't going to be any help. They're just going to get in the way and be a problem. And by the time you get to late Saturday night, midnight, 1 a.m. in the morning, there's an opposition to Uranus. And it's not a good time to be a policeman. You know, keep your hand off that gun, Mr. Policeman. You got to handle this stuff with common sense. So Sunday morning, moon's still in Libra, and you're still going to be feeling angry and kind of in emergency, I'm sorry to say. And it won't be till the afternoon of Sunday, when the moon sextiles Mercury, you start talking it over and thinking it over, and when you're getting in close to the Venus zone, where people give up and relax and kick back, which actually happens Monday morning, but you'll feel it Sunday night here. And ooh, these Saturdays, huh? They're tough. Wow. Well, I've been going through a lot of old papers and things, trying to find some old Captain Cook quotes, and I came upon this. I spent a lot of time on this. This is the birth time and date of Kamehameha the Great, and a man I really admire and work towards his goals. December 1st. So if you know, you want a birth date of Kamehameha, December 1st is his real birth date. How did I find this anyway? Well, I read an awful lot of old history, and I'm after the time period of Kamehameha, and when Cook and his two co-captains came in and wrote all these things in their journals. And Kamehameha the Great was born on a comet. Turns out I found the Chinese recorded a one-day comet here in the morning. When you look at his chart, oh boy, it's him. You know, he's got Sagittarius rising. He was a large, very wise man at 3 degrees. He had the sun and Mercury and the moon and Pluto together. Sagittarius is Jupiter is the ruling planet. And here's Jupiter conjunct Mars. He was a warrior. Yeah, some of the things of interest here, you know, he had Uranus squaring the moon. It said he never had a place to rest his head. His home was always interrupted by things. Here's also Saturn squaring his Venus, which made his love life a little difficult. Kahumanu was always giving him a hard time. But he's the father. The sun's in the first house, and all the stellium of planets here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 planets in Sagittarius, plus Sagittarius rising. He is Jupiter, trines Neptune, a deeply spiritual person who knew his religion and his experts. When he heard about Western religion, he laughed. There's a lot of things we don't know about Hawaiian religion, a lot of things. And I'm studying on it as hard as I can with the tools I have. But Kamehameha the Great was a wonderful man. And, you know, I found out on a lot of neat things. When Captain Cook came in at the time, oh, how did I know this was his chart? I verified the chart with his death. And yeah, and that worked and verified the chart. And also turned out when Cook was killed on that day, Kamehameha was a pretty young guy, came running across the bay along the shoreline to where the fight was, and some guy shot him with a musket and it grazed his shoulder. And this was a big thing for him. And so I had that date as death date and when he was hurt by a bullet. And I used those to rectify the chart, and they fit perfectly. Small adjustments. So this is the king's chart, and it's exactly what you'd expect. Yeah, wonderful stuff. Captain Cook said when he came in to the west coast of the Big Island, he said 200,000 people lived along the Kona coast. He did this by counting the houses, the thatched roofs, and multiplying times 7 or 8. I don't know how many people. He did it all over the world. He'd sit offshore, and then he'd count the houses with a multiplier to get the population. 200,000 people, he said. And the most common house pet was a large black bird. Yes, a la, wonderful big black bird. An evolved raven has little shadows, it's like a sunburst around his eyes, because this raven, when he's born, even fledgling, he crawls out of the nest, goes down on the ground. He evolved to crawl around in bushes and eat stuff that was in the bushes, and that's how he made his living. So his hands, when you look at the Alala's hands, are really big and gnarly for climbing. And he wasn't a flying bird, he was a climbing bird. And these little feathers around his eye all pointed outwards. So if he's climbing around a bush and a sharp twig goes in like this, it can't hit his eye. The ring of feathers stops it short of his eye. It's a defense about climbing around inside bushes. The most common house pet was a large black bird. Yeah, if let's say there's 10 people to a hut, that means 20,000 houses. And the most common house pet was this bird. I mean, maybe that's 5,000 Alalas. Why were they in the house? Captain Cook and Captain Clark and Captain King all wrote in their journals about the birds. The two birds, the raven in the house and the goose in the yard. They did say they weren't sure about the goose because they did not see little geese in the yards, which probably is because, things would jump in there and grab the baby goose. So they kept the geese inside like you would do with your own barnyard animals when they're small. But the captains said, we're not sure they didn't bring them in from the wild. So there's a postscript about the nene might be wild and they brought them in and put them in their yards. Not likely. But no question about the alala. What happened to them? Well, the Hawaiians all died of diseases brought in by the Western world, and the poor birds had nowhere to go. And now instead of 20,000 huts in Kona, there's none. Yeah, what happened? They got bulldozed and turned into coffee farms and things, and the Hawaiians, the birds took to the hills where they died quickly because they didn't evolve in the wild. These are domestic pets for 1,000 years. So was the nene. And that's another problem I'll get into at another time more fully. Anyway, one thing I wanted to get at right now, besides Kamehameha the Great, one of my other heroes in Hawaiiana is Princess Ruth Ke'ilikolani. And there's people now on Oahu and stuff saying, oh, we got to build some affordable housing. Well, Princess Ruth, bless her heart, when she saw that the Queen Emma's palace built down right in Nakona town, the 2-story western building, and it was all furnished with European furniture. Still there. You can go down and take a tour of Queen Emma's summer palace, they call it. And this summer palace was a strictly western building. And, when Princess Ruth saw this thing, this big 2-story, and she looked around, she walked around, and she said, oh, it's terrible, it's stuffy, So what she did is she built a Hawaiian house right next to it, because Ruth had money. She was a li'i. And the Hawaiian holly was just as big, and is much more comfortable, and Ruth put it right next to Queen Emma's summer palace because she wanted people to see how much more comfortable it was to live in a Hawaiian house. And that's what I'm getting at here. You want affordable housing for people? Don't put them in, shipping containers. My God, those are ovens. Build a Hawaiian house, thatched roof. Yeah, has all these are like 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch bare branches, laid down on bigger branches that are 1 inch, and then they put the thatch over the top. Now it turns out that this is the perfect place for who, because they can climb around upside down. All of these internal foundation limbs and branches were perfect. Allah could climb around inside your house, and of course this thatched roof, if the rats got in there, the Allah cleaned them right out. Loves baby rats, centipedes, scorpions, anything rustling around in your roof, and this big black bird, perfectly evolved, climbing around in there, would nail it and make your house safe. 2 lessons. They're cheap, they're affordable, easy to build, Hawaiian hollies. Air goes through them. It doesn't get trapped. You get circulation through a Hawaiian house. It's, thousands of years these guys evolved a house. They could have built them out of stone and rock and dug them in. They could have done all sorts of things. To get the best house, was the thatched roof, and the air circulation kept you cool. You're in the shade. And that's what they should be building for the homeless people here, is Hawaiian houses. Much cheaper, much more comfortable. There are lots of people willing to build these things. And who knows, maybe down the road you will be able to buy a real live ala to keep in your Hawaiian house to keep the critters away. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Finally, here's some Ben Franklin for you. A fool can be known by 6 things: anger without cause, speech without profit, change without progress, inquiry without object, putting trust in a stranger, mistaking foes for friends. Benjamin Franklin, huh? Yep, I do this all myself at home. A lot of my equipment's breaking down though. Eek! I find myself wondering if churches and religions are non-profit kind of entities, should be on public access. I'm not sure. Look a lot like corporations as far as I'm concerned, these religious organizations. Huh.